Well, it's finally here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first installment of Kevin's Corner. I am your host, Kevin Dieppa, and I am actually with a special guest who's on the phone right now. Dear friend of mine, very close personal friend of mine, somebody who I went to some broadcasting camps with, and that is Port Washington native, Chris Spina. Chris, how are you today?
I'm great, Kevin. How are you? I'm very excited to be on the show.
I'm doing fantastic myself, and for those of you that are watching right now, Chris is just committed to Syracuse. So we are very, very happy to hear that, Chris. I'm excited. I mean, I would have loved to see you come out to Western, but Syracuse it is. And how does it feel?
Well, it's great. I had a lot of great options. It came down to Syracuse, Boston University, and Northeastern. And I chose Syracuse because the other two schools, I really couldn't do communications. That's my passion. I was strictly business on those ends. So at Syracuse, I could do business and communications. And I got a good offer, so at Syracuse it is.
Well, that's fantastic. Unfortunately, we could not have another one of our dear friends, Lewis Blakeman, on the show. He is at La Crosse, I believe it is, Chris?
Yeah, he has to get ready for his games coming up. I believe he has one on Wednesday afternoon, and they just snapped the losing streak. So the Port Washington lacrosse team's trying to get back on track.
All right, well, good luck, Lewis, and to Port Washington's lacrosse. And without further ado, why don't we get into some sports? I know I'm dying to talk about some sports. What do you want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about Tiger Woods? Do we want to talk about playoff hockey? I mean, there's nothing better than playoff hockey, so why don't we start with that? Playoff hockey, what are you thinking, Chris? Let's kick it off here.
All right, well, playoff hockey, the NHL 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs have been amazing so far. They've really been extremely entertaining, filled with upsets. And do you want to just go around by series, talking about each one, predictions?
Yeah, sure. Of course, my friend.
All right, do you want to start with the Islanders?
I will tell you right now, with the Islanders, I thought that they were going to lose in 6 games, but with this 3-0 lead we have on the series right now, doesn't look like that's going to happen. Is it a possibility that we can see the broomsticks coming out?
Yeah, that game's going to be played tomorrow night at 7:30 on NBCSN. The Islanders, I originally had them in 6 games over Pittsburgh. I've been to a lot of games this year. I've been watching the team, and I knew that once we hit the playoffs, something would click for the team. So I was expecting something. I wasn't expecting 3 straight games in a row, including an absolutely surgically perfect game in Game 3 on the road in a hostile environment. But I've been pleasantly surprised, to say the least, and I'm just psyched at this point. Very, very excited. And I think Coach Trotz won't let these players get ahead of themselves and celebrate and think the series is over, because it's far from not. Sidney Crosby, Jake Gensel, Kenny Malkin, Chris Letang, they're a great team, Pittsburgh is. So the series is not over yet. It's looking like it for the Islanders, but there's still a lot of hockey to be played.
I agree. I think that Jordan Eberle is playing the best hockey of his life right now. What do you think about that?
Definitely. Jordan Eberle has 3 goals in 3 games so far. He scored 1 in each game, and I believe he has 2 assists. I could be wrong, maybe 6, maybe 3. So either has 5 or 6 points. But Eberle, he said earlier that he regretted his sole performance when he was with the Oilers. They made the playoffs once, and he was held without a point. So he really wanted to impress and take advantage of the opportunities that the Islanders have right now. And he's really playing clutch hockey. Jordan Eberle driving to the net, making moves. His ridiculous shot yesterday against Matt Murray, near side top corner. He's just playing some great skilled hockey right now, and it's great to see for the Islanders, somebody stepping up offensively.
I'm also surprised that Thomas Greiss has not seen the ice at all this postseason. Are you surprised by that in any way?
I'm actually not. I expected Barry Trotz to select one goalie and ride him throughout until he cools down throughout the playoffs. That was the strategy going in from the Islanders. And this season, especially towards the end of it, it's been Leonard's been playing better. Even though Thomas Greiss, he's been playing well. He just had a few rough outings earlier, about a month ago against Montreal and Boston. So, I mean, Robin Leonard, he's been playing really well. He's had an excellent save percentage in this playoff so far. I mean, he's hot. Why would you start Grice down? I really don't see them happening. I don't see Grice taking the ice at all this postseason unless Robin Leonard has 2 awful games in a row.
I agree. Now, moving away from the Islanders Penguins, what do you think about the Capitals Hurricanes series?
Well, it's been a very entertaining series so far, just to see Washington defending Stanley Cup champions. They're a really good team, and they've been playing well. Carolina has a bit of fight in them, and we'll see that tonight at 7 o'clock, Game 3. It's a 2-0 series lead for the Capitals, but the Hurricanes are looking to defend their home ice. They'll be wearing their black alternate jerseys tonight for all their home playoff games, so it's going to be fun to see those. And, I mean, they came back in Game 1, and they came back again in Game 2, forced it to overtime with a late goal, but unfortunately for the Hurricane fans out there, Brooks Orpik with a beautiful shot in overtime, and the Hurricanes fell short just again. So I would not be surprised if the Hurricanes collect a win in these next 2 home games, or at least one of them, but I still believe Washington's going to win the series.
Now, moving back,
5 or 6 games.
Moving back to the Islanders-Penguins series for 1 second, do you think that if the Islanders were playing the Hurricanes, do you think that this series can be a little bit more exciting, or do you think that it could be a little bit more dull, being that they would be playing the Hurricanes?
Wow, that's a tough question, Kevin. I think it really depends, because nobody expected Sidney Crosby to be shut down to 0 points in 3 games. It's unbelievable that the New York Islanders have been able to do this. But then again, you look at Carolina, they would probably have a bit more urgency than Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh being 2 of the past 3 Stanley Cup champions. So they don't have the bite that the Islanders or the speed that the Islanders have. And even the physicality, the Islanders are simply dominating them in these first 3 games. And I think Carolina would have posed much more of a threat to the Islanders as in they would be playing harder, but the talent differential, if the Islanders are locking up Sidney Crosby right now, I mean, it would be a cakewalk for the defense to lock up the Canes offense. And also, you can look at the goaltending situation with Peter Mrazek versus Matt Murray. Matt Murray is obviously a better goaltender. So I think the series still would be 3-0 or 2-1 in favor of the Islanders. But it would have been cool to see 2 faster teams. But I guess we'll see that next round.
Okay, so one last thing with the Islanders, because I do know the last time the Islanders were in the Coliseum, well, one of the last times that they were in the Coliseum for the playoffs, they did play the Penguins. However, they were eliminated in 6 games. Being that we already have 3 games under our belt right now, how do you think this series differs from that previous series? Back in 2013, I believe it was, maybe 2012?
It was 2013.
Yeah.
So I actually went to 2 games this series already, and I went to 2 games in that series. And going into it, I mean, the Islanders are the 4 seed in the East. Technically, the NHL has their own playoff format. But at the time of 2013, the Pittsburgh was the 1 seed, the Islanders were the 8 seed. It was the lockout season, so they only even played half the season. The Islanders snuck into the playoffs and were not expected to do anything. They were expected to get swept. Even though Pittsburgh was still favored in the 2018-2019 series that's currently underway, the Islanders still had home ice advantage, had more points, and are a much better team than they were in 2013. Even though the Islanders did put up a heck of a fight in that series in 2013, bringing it to 6 games, where it took the Penguins 6 games and 2 overtime goals where Pittsburgh scored to defeat New York. I mean, the Pittsburgh was clearly still the better team then, but this Islanders team now is a better team than the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'll say it again. Pittsburgh has more talent and more star power, but the New York Islanders play better as a team, and that showed throughout the series.
I definitely do agree there. And I also saw one last thing with the Islanders. I completely apologize. But I saw something on the television yesterday that said people were saying that the Islanders had no playoff experience. And they had a list of all the players on their current roster that had played in Stanley Cups. I think they had about 6 or 7 guys. So, yeah, the Islanders don't necessarily have a star like I'm going to say his name, John Tavares. They don't have a star like that, but what this team now gets a chance to do is play as a team and not focus around one specific guy, which makes this team so much more better than I think I've seen in the past couple of years.
I definitely agree with you, Kevin. It's taken away from the individual success, and it's more of a team. It's more of a unit. Everybody's playing for their spot on the ice. No, nothing's guaranteed, and Coach Trotz has done an insane job with fixing the defensive structure of the New York Islanders. They already won the Jennings Trophy, which is giving up the least amount of goals this year in the regular season. Last year, they gave up the most goals. So in 1 year, they went from worst to first, and that's the first time that's happened in 100 seasons of the National Hockey League. So Coach Trotz has done a perfect job with the New York Islanders. I'm extremely pleased about that. And just think about how great it would be for Boston, and maybe that's a preview to what we talk about next, but the Boston Bruins defeating John Tavares in the first round while the New York Islanders advance to the second round. That would be the ultimate FU.
I definitely agree with you with that. That is the biggest middle finger to Johnny Hockey right there. So you want to talk about that series right now?
Yeah, sure. I've watched the first two games of that series. Each team won 4-1 in the first two games. Toronto won the first one, and Boston won the second one. And Brad Marchand, right after the first game, said this is not what we expected. They came out better than we expected. They weren't expecting the Leafs to play the way they did in game one, and they prepared for it and then took complete control over game two, which had a lot of chippiness. Were you able to catch that game, Kevin?
No, I was not.
Well, I watched a lot of that game, and I took away two conclusions. Or maybe even three.
What were those conclusions, may I ask?
The first one is Frederik Andersen is an insane goaltender. The Leafs are so lucky that the score is not 10-1. Frederik Andersen made these incredible saves. He was flying out of nowhere. The Leafs defense collapsed, and the Boston Bruins players, they got four, but it was just seeing some of the saves that Freddie made. It was just incredible, and I feel bad for him. He's getting stuck behind a subpar defense in the NHL against the top offense. Mm-hmm. And another thing, so that's my first conclusion. Frederik Andersen is an amazing goaltender. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a defense to go along with him. Second of all, the Leaf stars have not shown up when they need to. Austin Matthews has been irrelevant. John Tavares has been irrelevant other than an empty net goal in game one, which, it was impressive win on the faceoff. He got it and shot it halfway down the ice, but he has not made much of a factor. William Nylander, he's done nothing. He's almost called up an own goal. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, he was trying to skate it around the net, lost possession of it, and Heinen and the Bruins just tapped it in for an easy goal to make it 3-1 and swing complete momentum. But the Leaf forwards need to show up, and we'll see if they'll do that tonight.
I agree. Switching conferences real quick, I want to talk about, because over the last week, I believe it was Friday, I was watching the Golden Knights Sharks game, and I was very, very impressed at the hockey that those two teams were playing. It was some very fast-paced hockey. It was kind of like watching Tottenham on the ice. Like a high press, you lose the puck, there's three guys on you, everybody's going all over the place, going 110 miles an hour. It was like watching Tottenham. What do you have to say about the Golden Knights Sharks?
Well, last year the Sharks and Golden Knights faced in the playoffs. Right now, the Vegas Golden Knights got the best of them as they obviously advanced to the Cup final. Right now the series is 2-1 in favor of the Golden Knights. But the Sharks took game one. And these are two teams that really don't like each other, as we saw last year and this year. There's been a lot of chippiness. Ryan Reeves fought against Evander Kane. We had Joe Thornton, who's going to get a hearing for a hit that happened last night. But these are two chippy teams who are really fighting for the spot. And the Sharks have great defense, but their goaltending. Martin Jones has not been playing very well. He let 6 goals last night in the game between these two teams, Game 3 in Vegas.
That's one thing about the Sharks. I tend to notice they have phenomenal offense, phenomenal defense. They got a good bunch of players, veteran and younger guys like Joe Pavelski, Brett Burns, Joe Thornton, Thomas Hertl. But their goaltenders, for some reason, I feel don't really have to be the best because of the offensive and defensive caliber players that they have on their roster.
Yeah, but just unfortunately, Martin Jones has not been playing that well. I mean, he's a normal. Last year he was a good goalie. This year he's just not been himself, and it may cost the Sharks a first-round exit. But one more thing I do want to mention about this series is that the Stastny, Pacioretty, Stone line was absolutely electric. They combined for 12 points as Stastny had 2 goals, 3 assists. Stone had a hat trick and 2 assists, and Pacioretty had a goal and an assist. That line's been lighting it up for Vegas this postseason so far, and actually towards the end of the year, that line has been a top line in hockey. You don't really hear about them often. They're kind of under the radar because they're a West Coast team, and not a lot of people from the East have to watch those late games. But the Vegas Golden Knights are playing good hockey right now, and it will be interesting to see if they make another cup run.
Jumping back to the Eastern Conference, Tampa Bay Lightning. What do you have to say about them? I am completely shocked. I actually, on my floor, I live with the guy who I did a radio show with here at Western Illinois. His name's Nate Clark. He's from California, but he is a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, and he has been awfully quiet these last couple of days. So I'm actually shocked at that as well. That not the fact that he's being quiet, more the fact that the Lightning are just, I wouldn't necessarily say abysmal, but it's a shock. It has come to a shock to me that the Lightning are doing as poorly as they are in this first round against the Blue Jackets, who I feel have always been not necessarily a mediocre team, but more overachievers as of late.
Well, the Blue Jackets, all props to them. Coach Tortorella, he's a strange guy. He gets very angry, as we've known, but he's a great coach. And we've seen what he's done with this Blue Jackets team. I mean, the first game, they were down 3-0 in the first period. And I remember looking at that game and everyone saying, oh, this is going to be an easy sweep for Tampa Bay. But the Blue Jackets stormed all the way back, won that game 4-3. The next game, they made absolute short work of Tampa Bay Lightning to take game 2. And, I mean, it's shocking that the fact that Tampa Bay is playing this poorly, but it's not shocking that the Blue Jackets are playing this well. And just to round out the scores, the Blue Jackets won 5-1 in Game 2, and last night they won 3-1. But the thing about the Blue Jackets is that they went all in this year to get Duchesne, to Ryan Dzingel. They got Keith Kincaid. They have upcoming free agents in Bobrovsky, Panarin. They went all in. And here's the thing. If they missed the playoffs this year, if they missed and Montreal got in, no GM will ever do such a thing again, as they've traded so many picks. They got Adam McQuaid too from the Rangers. But the fact that they're doing this against the Tampa Bay Lightning, possibly one could argue the greatest NHL team ever assembled, who tied the most amount of wins ever. I mean, it was a ballsy move by the Columbus Blue Jackets, and we may see more of these ballsy moves in the future to see the way that this series has panned out so far. But once again, Columbus up 3-0. It is far from over. The Lightning, obviously, are an extremely talented team, and I would not be that surprised if they come all the way back and take it in 7. But Columbus, they're playing excellent right now, and I don't see Tampa Bay coming back.
Hats off to them. Agreed with that. I do think that, not many people expected the Lightning to lose. I personally didn't even think the Lightning were going to lose 3 games in the entire playoffs, let alone the first round, which is, I once again, hats off to these Columbus Blue Jackets. Definitely have been overachievers. And now that I think about it, if they do happen to sweep the Lightning, do you think that this team is a team that, say, the Islanders or even the Bruins don't want to play against?
Well, if you just sweep the best team in hockey, I don't think any team wants to play against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Even if they win the series, you just beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I believe if you beat a team, you deserve the respect of that team and all they came from that year. So the Blue Jackets are a Stanley Cup favorite if they're able to pull this off. I'm going to say that loud and clear right now. If they're able to beat Tampa Bay and maintain this, I wouldn't say they're favored against Boston, but I think that's going to be an insane series because the Columbus Blue Jackets are playing perfect hockey right now, and they're just outplaying Tampa Bay. It's crazy, but this is why playoff hockey is the best.
Yes.
When would you ever see the 73-8 or what was it for the Warriors? The 73 win Warriors. When would you ever see them lose but that was just lose. Get swept in the first round. It's just incredible.
Would go down as one of the biggest upsets in sports history.
Definitely.
100%.
And the Blue Jackets have never won a playoff series in their franchise history. If this is the one where they win,
that's a playoff series to remember. That is probably there could be. Regardless, I mean, yes, they can win They can end up winning Stanley Cups in the future, but as of right now, for the near future, if they are to sweep this Tampa Bay Lightning team, it'll be their most memorable playoff experience ever. Up to date and
100%.
And possibly even leading into the future. Yeah, definitely agreed. Let's finish off with the Western Conference. We got the Jets Blues. I personally have the Jets going in 7. What do you think about that?
I think it's going to be a good series. Right now, St. Louis Blues are up in the series 2-1. But the Jets have the momentum. They won last night 6-3. Mm-hmm. David Perron scored second goal of the playoffs, and O'Reilly scored 2. O'Reilly scored in one of the previous games. But I think this is a very competitive series. I think St. Louis will take it because they are extremely hot since being last place in the league. They were last place in the league I believe, in December and stormed all the way back. And were at the end of the day, they were like 1 or 2 points out of first place in the Central Division. They were 1 point out behind Nashville. And the fact that they were able to do that, it's incredible. But I think this series will come down to the wire. I'm going to give it to St. Louis just because of how hot they're playing and the decline since the All-Star break Winnipeg has been on. Mm-hmm. But it really could go either way.
They've been flaming through the playoffs. They have been flaming through the playoffs. And so with that, Flames Avalanche. I have Flames in 6. I mean, it could go either way, personally, the way I think of these two teams. But for some reason, I just don't think the Avalanche are going to be able to escape this one.
Well, I agree with you for a different reason. I think the Flames are just a by far superior hockey team. I saw them play against the Islanders earlier this year, and the Flames they play as a team. They're great defense, great offense. Their only question is goaltending between Smith and Riddick, but Smith's been playing all right so far. He played a great game 1, not the best game 2. McKinnon won in overtime, but I see this game going to 6. And I think the Flames will win. And before we move on, do you think we could just talk a little bit more about this Boston-Toronto series and the incident between Jake DeBrusk and Malcolm Kadri?
Yes. Go for, you know what? You seem very interested in it. Take the floor. Take the floor, Crispina.
All right. Did you see the pick?
I saw clips of it. All
right. So let me just describe what happened.
Yes,
earlier
please.
that game, throughout this entire series so far, Kadri and DeBrusk have been going at it head-to-head, really physical against each other. Game 1 was just a lot of chirping and contact. Game 2, first thing that happens, DeBrusk, I believe he elbows Jake Muzzin, blood all over his jersey. Kadri didn't like that. And then later in that game, they had knee-to-knee contact that sent Kadri flying. He's actually went to the dressing room. He was really upset about that. I thought it was incidental contact from my perspective, but Kadri and the Leaf fans did not think that at all. They were very upset about that. And then later in that game, Kadri did come back and scored a goal for the Leafs to make it 3-1. But then, this is what I want to talk about.
What was that?
DeBrusk. This is what I want to talk about. Okay. That was all the background.
Okay.
DeBrusk hits Patrick Marleau into the turnbuckle. It's not the same as the Max Pacioretty hit since it's curved. Even though Marleau's old, it does not mean he's a non-contact player and that if you have skates on, you're going to get hit. End of the story.
Yes.
It was not the safe deteriorated hit. He didn't hit him that hard, but Kadri took exception to it. He went over to saw DeBrusk hit it, so in his mind, like, oh, you did better, and full-on cross-checks him in the face. DeBrusk is knocked out. I was watching the game. I'm like, all right, Kadri suspended just like he was last year against Boston, and he's a repeat offender. He is a hearing today. I doubt he'll suit up for the rest of the playoffs. I think this is going to be at least a 5-game suspension, and there's no place for such an incident in the National Hockey League. That is despicable act by Malcolm Kadri with full intent, 100% intent, a cross-check right to the mouth.
Sounds like a guy that I'm all too familiar with. Definitely a different sport, though, being probably the most hated player in the NFL and brand new Oakland Raiders linebacker, and my favorite Bengal for the last few years, Vontaze Burfict. That's exactly what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, but before we transition to football, I do want to, or whatever we go next to, Sean Avery. You know Sean Avery?
Yes, he was I remember him. He was on the Rangers. He had the goggles.
Yeah, and he had the smart response to after Tavares left to all the Islander fans. Did you see that video?
No, I did not.
Well, basically, he insulted the entire Islander fan base in a minute and said how we were the scum of the league, basically. It was not very nice. It was a mean-spirited video after we booed Tavares, and then Frankie Pirelli went on Spit and Chicklets and argued and debated against Sean Avery. But Sean Avery, you know what he said?
What did he say, Chris?
You know what he said regarding the Kadri thing?
What did he say?
Sean Avery said, the only problem with the Kadri hit is that he didn't knock the whole front row of his teeth out, of DeBrusque's teeth out. Sean Avery, a former NHL player, said that after the hit on Marlowe. Yeah. And that's despicable. I bet Kadri even thinks, wow, that was a stupid decision. Not only did I lose momentum for my team like that, but I mean, that was such a dirty play. But Sean Avery fully supports it after the fact. He's just a terrible human being. And
I definitely can agree with that. Not only is he a terrible human being for playing for such a scum team as the New York Rangers, but for agreeing with these actions that have gone on with Kadri. I never knew him as a person, but I don't like this guy at all. Kadri or Sean Avery for that matter.
Both of them are both pigeons.
I agree. Now, do you want to talk about the NFL? Well, before we talk about the NFL, I just want to say something regarding a guy by the name of Tiger Woods, who was during the prime of his career, when Tiger was Tiger, he was one of the most, if not the most dominant athlete of all time. Yeah, some people could say Gretzky, some people could say Jordan, Brady, Montana. I personally think, or even Michael Phelps too, I think that Tiger Woods has to be one of the top 5 most dominant athletes of all time. And with him winning his first major since 2007, I believe it is, here's some things that have happened in the sporting world the last time Tiger Woods won a major. Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi had 0 Ballon d'Ors between them. Usain Bolt had no Olympic gold. And King James himself, LeBron James, had yet to win an MVP award. I feel as if now I'm not feeling as if this is as if Tiger's back. You know, Tiger's back. Tiger's not in his prime anymore. 1997 to 2009, it's out the window. He is who he is right now. He's not that same Tiger that he was. But I can say that when Tiger does well, I think sporting does well. Just like from a biased perspective over here. When New York sports do good, the whole sporting world itself is in a positive state. So that's really all I wanted to say about that. Oh, and also with myself touching my Yankees jersey, this also happens to be a 42 for Mariano Rivera. I would just like to say that 72 years ago today, there were 309 Caucasian men in the MLB. And 1 African American, and that is Jackie Robinson. 72 years ago today, baseball was integrated, and definitely not just one of the greatest moments in baseball history, or even sports history for that matter, in American history as well, with the civil rights. And you know what? Everybody should be required to wear the number 42 on this day. And I do feel, yes, that it is the only big number that is retired throughout baseball. I do think that number 21 will be retired sometime in the near future. Hopefully before I'm pushing dandelions, number 21 will be retired throughout baseball for Roberto Clemente. But happy Jackie Robinson Day, everybody. Happy Tax Day, everyone. As Ocho Cinco once said, there's only 3 things in life that are certain: death, taxes, and 85 will always be open. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, Chris, I actually have some notes here as regarding to the NFL draft. And it's going to be a little bit of a segment called Real or Fake. Real news or fake news, for that matter, because fake news is all over the place nowadays. Do you think that the Arizona Cardinals, are going to take Kyler Murray with the #1 overall pick?
That's a tough question. I don't think they will. I think they're going to take Nick Bosa. That's my prediction, and I think you got to have faith in Josh Rosen. He's played a handful of games. He's still a young guy. I wouldn't waste it and trade Rosen immediately, because for all you know, he still has potential that you haven't discovered yet. I think they'll take the safe bet, and they'll take defensive end Nick Bosa from Ohio State. And he's going to be a great player. His brother Joey Bosa is on the Los Angeles Chargers, and obviously one of the best players in the league, first position. And you can't go wrong with Nick Bosa. You definitely have there would be a tremendous risk in taking Kyler Murray first overall for the Cardinals, but I think they're going to play it safe and take Bosa.
Do you think there's a possibility that we will only see one wide receiver go in the first round? Do you think there's a possibility for that? I personally think that quite a few will go off. Will be on the board. Will not be on the board at the end of the first round or first day of the draft. I think that there will be more than one wide receiver coming out of this first round.
And who do you see out of those?
I'm looking at guys like A.J. Brown from Georgia, Hakeem Butler out of Iowa State, Deebo Samuel from South Carolina, a couple of Marquise Brown from Oklahoma. I think at least one of those guys is definitely going to get drafted in the first round, whether it be high, middle, or later in the round.
What do you think about DK Metcalf? Right now on CBS Sports, he's projected as the highest wide receiver.
Yes, I completely forgot about him. Let's assume it's a lock. Not necessarily. I don't know where I was going with that, but I definitely think he will break the top 32. He will probably be the first wide receiver off the board.
Yeah, right now he's projected to go to the Baltimore Ravens at 22.
That's a little bit.
According to CBS Sports.
That is a little scary. Also, I don't remember if it was ESPN or CBS Sports. I believe my father sent it to me. Shout out to Big Mike over there. But a guy that I go to college with over here at Western Illinois by the name of Colin Saunders. Big defensive tackle, 6'2", 300 pounds. You might know him as the guy who was doing backflips on Good Morning America, and he was doing backflips at the Combine and stuff like that. I think that this guy can definitely go in. He'll be a second-day draft pick. Usually the first-day draft pick is only the first round. He'll be a day 2 draft pick. I've seen multiple reports saying that he can go to an AFC North team. I have seen the Steelers and my Cincinnati Bengals being heavily rumored heavily to be selecting this young man. I think that being that I've seen this man play here at Western, my dad has seen him. He is a phenomenal player. I think that whether he goes to any team, whatever team he goes to in the NFL, let's just say he goes with Cincinnati for now. I think that with the defense that Cincinnati runs, even though they do have a new head coach in Zach Taylor, I think that they will still be running at least 4-3 defense, whether it be a Tampa 2 or they even go to a 46 sometimes. I think that Colin Saunders could definitely be one of the starting tackles on this Cincinnati Bengals team. Definitely could be a solid backup on any other of the 32 teams. But I think that he will definitely be, if he is to go to Cincinnati, my babies, I think he will definitely start. I definitely think he will start. Moving along, do you think that the Raiders are going to consider a quarterback in this first round? Whether it be Kyler Murray or even Dwayne Haskins or somebody like that.
Here's what I think. I think the Raiders will not pursue a quarterback, but I think it'll be the wrong decision. Derek Carr, he's all right. I think there's some great quarterbacks who will be going off the board early, and it would be a shame if they don't choose one. But I think John Gruden's going to stick to Derek Carr and put his faith in Derek Carr, as he's upgraded the wide receiving core in Oakland significantly, bringing in Antonio Brown. One could say he's upgraded the wide receiving core, but is a locker room cancer. But I completely agree with that statement that I just mentioned. But I mean, Antonio Brown is a top wide receiver in the game, and he will definitely improve Derek Carr's stats this season.
I agree with you there. I don't think the Raiders are going to pick a quarterback in this first round. I think that they're going to stick with Derek Carr, because even when they had Amari Cooper, yeah, he was their only receiver that they had. They've had guys like Jordy Nelson, Michael Crabtree, but they have Antonio Brown right now. So Derek Carr's baby, like with every NFL quarterback, they have one baby. Andy Dalton's baby, as we all know, is A.J. Green. Big Ben's was Antonio Brown. I think that Derek Carr is a very solid quarterback in the NFL. I like this Raiders team. I think they're taking a step in the right direction. Don't even get me started on that head coaching deal that they had with Gruden last year. I think that was one of the most boneheaded, not necessarily boneheaded, but yeah, stupid decisions that they've ever made. Not that they've ever made, that have been made in sports. I think that's up there with the Rick DiPietro 15-year deal, which don't even get me started on that one. But I think that the Raiders are taking a step in the right direction, and I think that they are going to put all their faith in Derek Carr, and I think he's going to step up because he knows he's under pressure, and he knows that Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins are some very top-tier prospects. I think that even if the Raiders were to draft a quarterback, I don't think it would be in the first round. It'd probably be like a fifth round, maybe even a sixth round pick or something like that from somebody from for instance, Easton Stick from North Dakota State, who is a phenomenal quarterback out of the 1AA NCAA 1AA Division 1AA the section. But I don't think that there will be a quarterback going to the Raiders in this first round. I really don't. Moving right along, do you think that the Redskins are also going to be looking for a rookie quarterback as well?
Well, can you remind me the length of Alex Smith's injury? Or didn't they acquire somebody for Redskins?
Well, I do know that they were sold on Case Keenum and Colt McCoy until they really
got
went.
Keenum.
I do know that in the beginning of the days leading up to the draft a year ago, they were looking at Josh Rosen. I don't really know much on the Alex Smith situation, but I personally think that I know Alex Smith is a phenomenal quarterback. He was a great quarterback he was a good quarterback in San Francisco. He really, even though he was getting up into, I would say, the dog days of his career at Kansas City, he was still performing along with that team. They were overachieving in Kansas City. I think that the Redskins are going to stick with Alex Smith, and yeah. But before we move out of this NFL segment, I'm going to let you finish what you were saying, and then I will ask the final question because I love to just harp on this team.
All right, yeah. I think they'll stick with Case Keenum until Alex Smith's return, and then I don't think they'll pick a quarterback in the first round this year. Maybe in a few years, because Alex Smith obviously old, and Case Keenum, he's 31 too, so he's not a young guy. But I think they'll be fine for now. Where they don't need to pick a quarterback in the first round.
All right, moving on. Do you think this is the last question, and then we're going to move on to some baseball? Do you think that the Jets are going to look to trade down with the additions that they have made with guys like C.J. Mosley? Do you think that the Jets are going to look to trade their pick?
What's their current pick again?
They have this last season. I know they had the number 6 overall. If I look at my notes correctly, I believe.
I thought they had third overall last year because they picked Darnold.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, they traded up for Darnold. I don't know what pick.
Yeah, they're at 6 now. They're at 6 now.
But I don't think the Jets are going to trade down. I think they have one of the top picks in the draft. But I don't think the Jets are going to go down because it's the Jets. They're stupid, and I just love harping on the Jets. So let's move on to some baseball here. What are you thinking of these early days? It's still a little bit early to, I guess, look for some contenders and stuff like that. But are there any teams that are catching your eye?
Well, I haven't been following baseball that much, but some of the things I have taken away so far is the significant problems with the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
They're both only 6 wins. Boston's played 17 games, and the Yankees have played 15.
Okay.
And I mean, they're both completely underwhelming right now. The Yankees, they won on Saturday, but they lost 2 or 3 to the White Sox. Before that, they got swept by the Astros, but before that, they did sweep the Orioles. But the Orioles, they're not that great of a team, even though they still are 1 game. Actually, no, they're the same amount of games back as the Yankees are in first place, which is 5.5, because the Tampa Bay Rays are really hot right now. But I just think it's really strange to see the Yankees and Red Sox off to a slow start, but I think both teams can get in shape and be the top.
I agree. I think that first off with the Rays were a team that won 90 games last year, and nobody talked about it. The Rays are the sleeper in this AL East division. Yeah, you got the Yankees because they got Judge, they got Severino, they got Stanton. You got the Red Sox. They got Sale. They got Benintendi. They got Bogarts. They got all these guys. But the Yankees, the problem with the Yankees is injuries. They always seem to bite the injury bug. The injury bug bites them rather, and that is what gets me very frustrated. And it's not just the hitting. I think that it is the pitching. And I've said for years, if the Yankees want to be a big-time contender, they need to get more pitching, preferably a southpaw. They went out and acquired James Paxton, who I've always wanted James Paxton on this team. I've always thought he was a phenomenal pitcher. Not necessarily a phenomenal pitcher. He was definitely a good pitcher that the Yankees were looking for. But I think what they can also look for is a guy by the name of Dallas Keuchel, who is still without a team. And unfortunately, that young man would definitely have to get rid of that beard due to, Yankee traditions, not having facial hair. But that's okay. It might be a little bit freaky to see him without a beard. But I think if Dallas Keuchel was to come into this Yankees team, I don't know why. If Brian Cashman, if you're listening right now, you probably aren't. That's okay. But if anybody high up with the Yankees is listening right now, Dallas Keuchel is the guy to go to because since he played the Yankees in the wild card game maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where he absolutely annihilated them. Some of the best pitching that I've seen in my lifetime in the playoffs, let alone just a wild card playoff. If they have him, he is a very consistent pitcher who is not a guy that is going to threaten you with the strikeouts. He is somebody that doesn't give up a long ball. He doesn't walk, but he doesn't strike out a lot of people. He forces them to make contact and, be a little dinky ground ball or a fly out to somewhere in the outfield. I think that Dallas Keuchel could definitely be a major addition in this if the Yankees are even to go get him. Can he go anywhere? I personally don't know. I think that, looking at the comments now, I do see that the Mets could sign him. And I think that would be phenomenal. I think that would be a phenomenal decision for the Mets because they have Syndergaard, they have DeGrom, who somehow managed to win a Cy Young award on that crappy team, which blows my mind. I don't know how the Mets, as of late, they had R.A. Dickey win a Cy Young award with that terrible team. He wasn't even a good pitcher. Yeah, knuckleball guy. He was literally a one-season wonder. That's all he was. Jacob DeGrom is a phenomenal pitcher. That's the guy that they got to look to lock up, and I think if they lock him up, they should be there. The problem with the Mets, though, I'm going to jump ship a little bit. The problem with the Mets is health and their pitching.
Yeah,
just like the Yankees.
It's a New York injury bug.
I swear that's really what it is. And the Mets, I always say it. If that's the biggest word in the sentence. If the Mets pitching can stay healthy, they can be a significant contender, especially with the players that they have acquired this season. With Robinson Cano, who it's always good to see him back in New York. It's good to see him on the crosstown. He's one of hundreds of players to play in both the Yankees pinstripes and play for that team in Flushing as well. Edwin Diaz, who is a phenomenal closer, Puerto Rican, Wepa. I think that the Mets bullpen has definitely improved. I definitely did think that the Mets were going to go and sign Adam Ottavino, but he ended up going to the Yankees. The Mets also should sign Dallas Keuchel. I think that would be great because you would have DeGrom, you would have Syndergaard, you would have Matz and Keuchel, and then throw in somebody else. It doesn't really matter. Go get Bartolo Colon again. That'll be phenomenal. I still remember us in Hofstra watching that Bartolo Colon home run just like every 30 seconds. There was always that one thing that we would watch, and for some reason that happened to be one of them. But
I remember left field in San Diego.
Yeah, James Shields. God, his career has gone down the toilet ever since leaving the Rays. But anywho, I think that the Mets, they just got to stay healthy. They have the bats. I love Pete Alonso. I think Pete Alonso is the first baseman that they were looking for. I think Wilson Ramos is also a great acquisition that they had, and that Darno can just take a spot on the bench because he's never really healthy to begin with. Being that Wilson Ramos is one of the most durable catchers, and it is probably one of the most underrated catchers as well in the MLB. Ever since he was with the Nationals, there was that off season where I believe he was kidnapped. I believe, and the following season he didn't do so well. But after that, he started to build himself back up to where he is now. And being with the Mets after that season that he had with the Rays, I think that if he continues the way he's playing, the Mets will finally have a solid catcher. They have not had a solid catcher since Mike Piazza. They've had guys like Brian Schneider, Paul LaDuca, Ramon Castro, John Buck, Travis d'Arnaud. No, those are not quality catchers. Wilson Ramos is a quality catcher. And the Mets just got to stay healthy. Yeah. I was also reading I actually have this in my notes. I'm going to skip back to the East, but I'm going to go to the AL East. Matt Shoemaker is with the Blue Jays. And I think that this guy can – when he first started in 2014, his rookie season, he went 16-4 with the Los Angeles Angels. I think he posted an ERA of 3.04, total innings pitched of 136, struck out 124, and only walked 24, maybe 25 as well. He finished second in the Rookie of the Year. He has been under the radar since then. He's a good pitcher. I think that the Blue Jays are not going anywhere. Yes, they have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who everybody is waiting to see what this guy can do. I know I play with him in MLB The Show all the time. He's a phenomenal prospect. Is there a chance that we see him this year? Possibly. But going back to Matt Shoemaker, I think that he needs to have this could be his bounce back year that he has been looking for. He's also been a guy that has had the injury bug bite him quite often. There's actually been quite a couple of guys about, let's say, in the 30 teams in the MLB, in 30 places, with all the new faces that they have had this season, I think that some teams, some of these players that they have acquired, like, for example, Charlie Morton on the Rays, injury bug. He was always regarded as a high-caliber prospect, just never got to the success that he had, or he never lived up to the hype, is what I'm trying to get at. But I think, let me change a little the topic here. I think that the AL East is the toughest division in the American League, hands down. Do you agree with me on that, Christopher?
I think, yeah. The AL East, I mean, you have the Rays, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. I mean, the Yankees and the Red Sox are just World Series champions, and the Yankees, they're the Yankees. They're a great team. And we said the sleeper Rays.
Mm-hmm.
The AL Central, they have the Twins and the Indians. The Indians are always up there. And then the Astros and the Athletics.
I think the Rays are going to surprise a lot of people, too, this year.
And the Mariners. Those are the teams in the AL East the AL West who pose a significant threat. But no, I mean, the AL East is the star power. The Yankees and the Red Sox, arguably two of the top three teams in the AL in the same division, with a great team in Tampa Bay. So I think the AL East is definitely the most superior division.
In the AL, I believe that is definitely the toughest division. I think that the toughest division in baseball is the National League Central Division. Once the Cardinals acquired Paul Goldschmidt, the competitiveness in that division skyrocketed, because the Brewers had a phenomenal postseason. I was being here at Western. I had a couple guys from, as they like to say, Wisconsin. Brewers fans, a couple guys out here, Cubs fans, Cardinals fans. There's also a friend of mine named Trevor Davis, who was a Red Sox fan. That was hard. But anywho, I think that the Brewers are a team that we know now not to sleep on. The Cardinals have always been a team that you don't want to mess around with, because you sleep on them, they will beat you. For example, 2011, when the David Freese series, which probably was the greatest game of baseball I've ever seen in my life, Game 6 of that World Series. But I think the Cardinals are definitely a team. The Cardinals and the Brewers, and if the Cubs can get back to that World Series hype, that World Series caliber team that they were, I don't think they're going to have that kind of luck with Hugh Darvish in their rotation. But I think that the NL Central is definitely the toughest division. Some people might say the NL East.
That's what I was actually going to say, Kevin. I think the NL East isn't it. They're the most. I wouldn't say the toughest, but they're definitely the most competitive, because out of those 5 teams in the NL East, 4 of them have a legitimate shot of winning the division. I don't think the Marlins are any good, but the Phillies could win, the Braves could win, the Mets could win, the Nationals could win. But the thing is, there's no dominant team, so I wouldn't be surprised if only one of those teams makes the playoffs.
I think that if there's one of those teams,
so competitive. Maybe 2 will make it, but it's going to be a very, very competitive division, and all those 4 teams will be vying for the title.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Braves are going to be the only team in that division to come out of to go into the playoffs. Now, there could be the possibility of the Phillies or the Mets or the Nationals. Probably not the Mets. Let's be serious here. So the Nationals and the Phillies, possible wild card contenders. One of those teams could land a spot in that 1-game playoff. However, they'll probably play against the Brewers. They could even play against the Cardinals, the Cubs. They could play against a team from the West. They could play against possibly, the Padres. I don't think the Padres are going to be a contender this year. I think they have good offense, especially with the recent acquisition of Machado this year. I believe a couple of years ago it was Hosmer. They also have Will Myers, who's a solid baseball player. Manny Margot, Hunter Renfroe. It's their pitching. That's the problem with the Padres is their pitching. Their offense can get them places, but their pitching is going to keep them is going to prevent them from moving up into a position that they should be. But I think the Braves are going to be the only team that comes out of the NL East with a playoff spot. Now,
well, Kevin, I do want to mention something a little funny I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
In the baseball standings, if you look around at the moment, basically all these teams have played the same amount of games as the NFL teams have by the end of their season.
Huh.
It's crazy because it feels like baseball just started and the NFL season took forever. But the Rays are 12-4, Yankees 6-9, which is right there.
Mm-hmm.
The Blue Jays are 5-11. It's just like, wow, that much baseball's in play already.
Yeah.
And wow, the NFL season is so short.
It's Jackie Robinson Day. It's a 162 game season. We still got a long ways to go. There is always there's injuries, there's call-ups, there's demotions, there trades, breakouts. Anything can happen. This is why probably the reason that I love the game of baseball is you don't know what to expect with baseball. Baseball is also one of those sports that it goes into your chest and it rips out your heart. It tears it into a million pieces, and then it will put them back together. I love the game of baseball. It's such a fascinating game. That's how Brian Kenny actually described it to me when I was on the phone with him. He said baseball is just such a fascinating game. I love the romance aspect of it. He loves the sabermetrics part of it, and just how this game has evolved for so many years. And we got 3 minutes till 4 o'clock here, Central Time. That is, I believe. Now I'm not good with math. It's probably about 4:57 over by you.
Yep, you got it.
In Fort
yeah.
Lauderdale.
Just adding what you said, baseball. I like playoff baseball. I start following baseball around mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to games over the summer. I'll root for the Yankees if they're in the matches if they play. I never really chose a team, but for me, the baseball season is just too long. I'm more of a hockey guy, as you know, Kevin. As the viewers may not.
Never guessed. I would have never guessed that. I'd never guessed you were a hockey guy. I mean,
big hockey guy.
No, never would have guessed, Chris. Never would have guessed. We gotta. If I could, I would love to have come to one of the playoff games with you.
I would have loved to bring you.
It was great. It was great to see you at the Canadiens game. And that was a good game too.
Yeah. And great ending.
Phenomenal ending. Phenomenal ending. I think that going to that game, we're getting a little off topic here, but going to that game, I did realize that the Islanders were definitely a contender, and the Canadiens are not a pushover. They were not a pushover by any means.
They're not. No team with Carey Price is a pushover.
Absolutely not. Probably one of the best goaltenders I've ever seen, and definitely. Possibly the best goaltender in the league today.
Definitely.
So we got 2 minutes to spare. Is there anything you want to talk about? Maybe what you actually texted me before. You wanted to say you want to talk about Game of Thrones. Please don't tell me anything about Game of Thrones because I have yet to watch it.
But yeah, I'll just say one. I'll say one quick thing about it. It was a pretty good episode. A lot of hype leading up to it. Wasn't very eventful, but it was solid. It got you excited for the rest of the season.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? That just about does it. For those of you who have tuned in, thank you for your support and thank you for being here. Tune in whenever I will be posting updates, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or even on my YouTube channel. I will be posting updates as to when the next installment is going to be, whether it be a live stream or a previous recorded video. But I believe that's all the time we have for today. And Chris Spina, thank you so much. It was great speaking to you.
Yeah, you too, Kevin. Thank you.
Bringing me back to the days of Three's Company, you, me, and Slew at Hofstra, back where it all started with Freddie Coleman and all those guys.
All right.
But that's all the time we have. For my colleague Chris Spina, I'm Kevin Dieppe, and we will catch you later. Happy Tax Day, happy Jackie Robinson Day, and happy 3-month anniversary to my girlfriend. Have a great day, everyone.